All right, everyone. This story was broke by Yonhap actually last night with regards to the upcoming summit in Hanoi between Trump and Kim Jong-un, and there are rumblings, and Trump even suggesting this himself, that there could be an official, or at least kind of sort of official, end to the Korean War. That is, if things go well, Trump has said, well, I'm pleased that they've paused their missile tests and stuff. If that continues, the possibility is that we sign some sort of accord. Now, it probably wouldn't be an official end to it at first. It would basically be Trump and Kim will come out and make a video and say, look, we've agreed, we want certain things, on both sides, but we want to end the Korean War officially. We're going to have another talk, and then we'll finalize it. We need to get the Republic of Korea and China involved. Apparently, Trump also taking Russian advice and criticism, which is a good idea. They share a small piece of border with North Korea. Half of their country is within missile range. They do have diplomatic relations that are more normalized with North Korea. You've got the issue of smuggling around sanctions with certain Russian citizens. The mafia up there involved with that. They do need a seat at the table. They are a major player in that sphere of the world, and less hostile towards North Korea than we are, although the idea that Putin and Kim Jong-un are buddies or something, I think, is totally wrong. China needs a seat at the table because they've been the guarantor of North Korea for 50 years, and 70 years almost now. And then we get a seat at the table because we back the Republic of Korea. And Russia, oddly enough, the neutral party here, because they have relations with South Korea and trade deals too. Here's the thing. Do I think that it's likely? The most likely possibility is that they come out, they shake the hands, they plant the peace tree in Hanoi and stuff like that, and they remark upon the fact that they both want an official end to the war. And then they work towards that with the ROK. It is unlikely that we're going to see them emerge from the hotel or palace or whatever with a piece of paper they both signed officially declaring a cessation of hostilities. That's very unlikely. Just as at the summit before, some people are like, oh, they can end the Korean War, and I'm like, no, but they're going to shake hands, they're going to call each other great leader and stuff like that, and it's going to be a love fest, because that's how, that sort of conciliatory attitude is how you heal relations that really have gone past the pragmatic, strategic sense, and have become just a long-term feud where you've got a diplomatic stalemate because both sides want things that they can't possibly cede. But if North Korea is not acting in an aggressive manner, if they've kept removing mines, removing border posts, removing artillery, and doing these things, repatriating remains from the DMZ, which has been ongoing for months now, with the ROK, you've had no negative incidents whatsoever. You haven't had somebody get uppity and accidentally shoot at the other side. You haven't had any, someone pushes another dude over on a landmine to get rid of him. You haven't had any bad blood there, as far as I can tell. In my mind, Kim Jong-un realizes that China is no longer willing to prop up North Korea, and what he's aiming for now is basically twofold. Number one, we're not going to immediately denuclearize. We need to have a cessation of hostilities, a peace agreement first, then we can talk. Because otherwise we don't have a guarantor, we don't immediately get invaded. That's a legitimate concern because Uncle Sam, I'm sure, has had contingencies for invading this entire time. Just like North Korea has contingencies for attacking the ROK will only sign off if the U.S. remains a military guarantor of peace until denuclearization and a full cessation of hostilities. And Japan is involved as well, because Japan's like, they were even talking about wanting nuclear weapons. Why do you think Kim Jong-un, that probably pushed him in the direction of wanting peace as well? So that's what we need to do. Is the ROK and North Korea, number one, need to take the fore. Number two, denuclearization probably can't continue until thereafter. And then number three, this is Kim Jong-un's other concern. Most of the Western world considers him a total pariah. They consider him a war criminal, they consider him a tyrant, they consider him an illegitimate leader of a non-country, basically. Under those conditions, he needs a guarantor from the Republic of Korea, the United States, co-signed by China, possibly Russia as well, that he's not going to get kicked out of his position as eternal leader for the benefit psychologically of a people that are so sheltered that they still think of him in almost quasi-spiritual terms. He's going to say, look, order will break down here and I won't even be able to control my own population. We could really quickly lose control of the military and of hydrogen bombs, by the way, which could endanger everyone if you remove me. I'm not going to sign a peace accord unless we're signing a separate accord guaranteeing that I'm not going to get killed. I'm not going to get dragged off and tried for war crimes. The UN is not going to come after me. I'm going to get to keep my position, at least in a traditional and symbolic fashion, for the rest of my life. And don't mind if I say death to the great Satan or something, because people just sort of expect that. And that's sort of what's going to happen. He doesn't want him or his generals to be prosecuted or killed, doesn't want to get invaded, and that's really what it's about. Yes, it is a defensive posture the DPRK is taking. You know, years ago, they would never have agreed to such a face-to-face meeting. The last person who had met was Clinton's people, I think, you know, back in the middle of the 1990s. Then, of course, they develop a rogue nuclear program after he says, oh, well, let me give him some uranium. I think this is a great idea. And it was moronic to do that. It was totally stupid. Here's potentially refinable material that you can turn into weapons to frighten all of your enemies. Please don't use it to actually do that, though. Just use it for development of energy, so that you can power Pyongyang, basically, and, you know, join the 20th century at that time. And you know, that's obviously, unfortunately, not what happened. I think Trump has unique qualifications that allows him to carry on these kinds of talks. Can you imagine Obama ever managing to get a sit-down? Hell, he got snubbed by China on his last official state visit. Remember, they refused to roll out the carpet. There was no one there to greet him on the tarmac, and it was just sort of, Obama shows up, he steps off the plane, he looks around confused for a second, he's like, oh shit, and he runs to his car. That was Obama, and then you have Bush. Bush tried to be the big boy. We got a red line, don't you test none of them atomic weapons. And they test atomic weapons, and it's like, he doesn't do anything. Oh, I'm going to slap you with sanctions. No, it was funny because here he is, he's warmongering after the Iraqis, which don't have WMDs, and Afghanistan, which doesn't have WMDs, and worrying about all this other stuff. Meanwhile, he pretty much started ignoring the Korean crisis. And that wouldn't have even brought us toe-to-toe with Russia. Look, Russia at the time was still friendly enough to join us in sanctioning them. And then, of course, that stopped, and then they sort of got on board, and now China is too, with returning to that embargo state. And then you have the Clinton administration was very friendly towards Kim Jong-un until they developed their rogue nukes, which was one of the biggest foreign policy blunders of the 20th fucking century was Bill Clinton deciding to give nuclear material to North Korea. Instead, if he had had balls, he would have said, okay, you've got a rogue program, we're not dealing with it, you've got a war footing, we're technically at war with you anyway, it's going hot. And China's not going to get involved because at the time, the geopolitical situation of that part of the world was China was too busy expanding industry, number one, and didn't even have its modern missiles. We were at peak readiness, like the highest troop alert level we'd possibly be at. We had the most guns and toys and shit, with everyone else still using the last generation fucking steel helmets and shit. And Russia didn't want to get involved. Russia's busy, you know, rebuilding from the ashes of the USSR, and we don't do anything. Meanwhile, then you have a bunch of warmongering from Bush, who was like totally out to lunch. Then you have Obama saying, well, it's a red line if you develop more weapons and test them. And they knew they were going to do that because that was a challenge. See, what you don't want to do is issue a nuclear challenge to North Korea. They will test a weapon. That's just like why they test the waters right before the summit. I wouldn't be surprised if Kim Jong-un tomorrow said, oh, Trump is ugly or something, so that we have to say, well, maybe we'll have to push the summit back. Or maybe Trump insults Kim, and then they pull back, and then Trump's like, no, you're not understanding. That's just a term of endearment. And then the summit goes back on. It's to keep things on an even keel. That may not be necessary, though, this time. They've already had a face-to-face summit, and it went well. That shows a conciliatory nature. My hope is that there's peace. I would love it if they exit the building in Hanoi with a piece of paper saying, oh, Korean War's over. And Trump waves to the Democrats and says, look, haha, I guess my foreign policy stuff worked after all. They're calling it Trump's gamble right now. It's hilarious. He's already gotten more out of North Korea in the diplomatic sense, using the strategy he's employed, than all four past presidents involved with trying to do anything have gotten during their entire tenures. You're talking a total of 4 administrations, 7 periods of actual presidencies, 7 total terms. Nothing was accomplished. The situation got worse and worse. Trump has managed to reverse 20 or 30 years of worsening relations in a single year of effort. So it's working. Give him some support. That's about all. Peace out.